I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Your brain is making thousands of micro decisions right now while you rest, weighing speed against accuracy, effort against reward, each choice shaping tomorrow's performance. You'll discover why sleep determines how well you'll think tomorrow and understand why motivation alone was never enough. Welcome to Psychology for Sleep. Now settle in. You're in your safe space while your prefrontal cortex quietly restores its energy reserves, preparing decision-making circuits for tomorrow's challenges. Allow yourself this moment of restoration. We'll journey through 100 psychology facts about performance and rest, from motivated minds running on empty to well-rested brains achieving more with less effort, to the moment we discover which truly controls success. This thoughtful journey through performance science builds bridges between tired minds seeking answers. A gentle like, subscribe, or sharing your thoughts helps other sleepy souls discover this sanctuary, one quiet mind at a time. Your journey toward rest inspires ours. Let yourself settle completely here. Feel your jaw unclench, your breath deepen naturally. You can let these thoughts about performance and motivation drift past without holding them. Sense that soothing heaviness enveloping you, like your consciousness slowly dimming its brightness. Thoughts dissolving into peaceful fog of approaching sleep, safe and undisturbed. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You're floating where thoughts rest safely in gentle darkness. Let your mind merge with infinite peace. And now we begin. Imagine two people starting the exact same job tomorrow. Both are equally talented, equally motivated, equally determined to succeed. But there's one difference that will change everything. The first person, let's call them Person A, believes in maximum effort. They sleep 5 hours a night, wake at dawn, push through tiredness with coffee and willpower. They see sleep as something that steals time from achievement. The second person, Person B, prioritizes 8 hours of sleep, even if it means doing less each day. They see rest as part of performance, not separate from it. Over the next 100 facts, we'll watch what happens to these two approaches. We'll discover which one truly controls performance. And the answer might surprise you. Person A represents something familiar in modern culture. The hustle mentality. The belief that motivation and determination can overcome any obstacle, including exhaustion. According to research published in the Journal of Applied Psychology in 2024, approximately 67% of high-achieving professionals identify with this approach. They wear their lack of sleep like a badge of honor. They believe that sleeping less means wanting success more. This mindset has roots in Industrial Revolution thinking, when long hours at factories determined output. But human brains are not factories. They don't produce more simply by staying open longer. Yet Person A doesn't know this yet. They only know they want to succeed, and they're willing to sacrifice anything, especially sleep. Person B represents a different philosophy, one that's gaining scientific support. They understand that performance isn't just about hours invested. It's about the quality of the organ doing the performing, the brain, and brains require maintenance. Research from the Sleep Research Society, updated in November 2025, confirms that adults need 7 to 9 hours of sleep for optimal cognitive function. Person B aims for 8 hours consistently, not because they're lazy, not because they lack ambition, but because they've learned something crucial. They've learned that the brain performing tomorrow depends entirely on the brain recovering tonight. They see sleep as sharpening the tool, not abandoning the work. Both people have motivation. This is important to understand. Person A isn't more motivated than person B. They're equally driven. They both want to excel, to achieve, to prove themselves. Motivation. According to neuroscience research from Stanford University, published in early 2025, is primarily regulated by dopamine pathways in the ventral tegmental area and nucleus accumbens. Both people have these pathways functioning. Both experience the desire to succeed. Both feel the pull toward their goals. The difference isn't in their motivation levels. The difference is in what they believe motivation can overcome. Person A believes motivation can substitute for sleep. Person B believes motivation needs sleep to function properly. One of these beliefs aligns with biology. Let's define what we mean by performance. In cognitive neuroscience, performance refers to measurable outputs, reaction time, accuracy in complex tasks, creative problem solving, decision-making under pressure, working memory capacity, emotional regulation, sustained attention. These are not abstract concepts. They're quantifiable abilities that determine success in almost every profession. A surgeon's performance is measured in precision. A teacher's performance is measured in communication clarity. A driver's performance is measured in safe reactions. An analyst's performance is measured in pattern recognition. Person A and Person B will both be tested on these dimensions. The job doesn't care about effort or intention. It cares about results. And results depend on brain function. On day 1, Person A wakes after 5 hours of sleep. They feel groggy but determined. They drink coffee, enjoying its gentle alertness, unaware that caffeine merely masks tiredness rather than removing it. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine receptors in the brain. Adenosine is a neurochemical that accumulates during waking hours, creating sleep pressure. By blocking its receptors, caffeine prevents the feeling of tiredness. But here's what Person A doesn't realize. Blocking the signal doesn't remove the underlying need. The adenosine is still there, still accumulating. According to research from the National Institutes of Health published in 2024, caffeine has a half-life of about 5 to 6 hours. Person A feels alert. They feel motivated. They feel ready. Person B wakes after 8 hours of sleep. They didn't need an alarm. Their body completed its natural sleep cycles and woke naturally. They feel clear-headed, not euphoric, just steady. Their adenosine levels cleared during the night through a process we'll explore later. Their cortisol levels rose naturally with morning light, providing gentle alertness. They consume coffee too, but for enjoyment rather than necessity. Research from the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, updated in late 2025, shows that well-rested individuals respond to caffeine differently than sleep-deprived ones. For Person B, caffeine enhances already functional cognition. For Person A, it's compensating for impairment. Same substance, different starting points. Person B feels motivated too, but their motivation has a foundation. The first morning tasks begin. Both people attend the same meeting. Both need to focus, contribute ideas, remember details. Brain imaging studies from Harvard Medical School, published in 2024, show that sleep deprivation primarily affects the prefrontal cortex. This is the brain region responsible for executive function, planning, decision-making, impulse control, working memory. Person A sits in the meeting, motivated and engaged, but their prefrontal cortex is running on diminished glucose supply. Sleep deprivation reduces glucose metabolism in this region by approximately 12 to 14% after one night of poor sleep. Person A doesn't feel this reduction consciously. The brain doesn't have pain receptors to signal its own impairment. They just feel normal. Person B sits in the same meeting with a fully restored prefrontal cortex. During their 8 hours of sleep, their brain completed essential maintenance. The blood-brain barrier selectively allowed nutrients through while the brain rested. Their working memory, the ability to hold and manipulate information temporarily, operates at full capacity. Studies from the Cognitive Neuroscience Society show that working memory capacity can hold approximately 7 items in well-rested individuals. In sleep-deprived individuals, this drops to 4 or 5 items. Both people take notes. Both want to remember. But person B's brain has the biological capacity to encode memories more effectively. Not because they're trying harder, because their neurons function optimally. Here's the crucial realization at Fact 10. After just one day, the differences are subtle. Person A performs reasonably well. Their motivation carries them through. They make a few small errors, miss a couple details, but nothing dramatic. They feel tired by afternoon but push through. Person B performs slightly better, but the gap isn't obvious. The question forming is this: if motivation can compensate for one bad night of sleep, why does sleep matter? This is exactly what Person A believes. They think they've proven that willpower works. But we're only at day 1. The comparison has just begun. And biology doesn't show its full effects immediately. It accumulates. Let's continue watching. By week 1, patterns emerge. Person A maintains their 5-hour sleep schedule, Sunday through Saturday. They average around 5 hours and 15 minutes per night. According to longitudinal sleep studies from the University of Pennsylvania, published in 2023 and validated through 2025, this creates a cumulative cognitive deficit. Each night of restricted sleep doesn't just affect the next day. It adds to a growing debt. By Friday, Person A has accumulated approximately 15 hours of sleep loss compared to their biological need. This isn't like missing 15 hours of television. This is 15 hours of critical brain maintenance undone. Person A still feels motivated, but their brain is operating in an increasingly compromised state. Person B maintains 8 hours consistently. Their circadian rhythm, the internal biological clock regulated by the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus, stabilizes. Recent research from the European Sleep Research Society, updated in 2025, confirms that consistent sleep schedules strengthen circadian amplitude. This means clearer wake signals during the day and clearer sleep signals at night. Person B's body knows when to be alert and when to rest. This consistency creates a positive feedback loop. Good sleep leads to better wakefulness, which leads to appropriate tiredness at night, which leads to good sleep again. Their performance remains steady all week. Not spectacular, just consistent. And in many contexts, consistency beats occasional brilliance. The first measurable performance gap appears in reaction time. Psychomotor vigilance testing, the gold standard for measuring alertness, shows that person A's reaction time has measurably slowed, sometimes by 10% or more compared to baseline. Research from Walter Reed, Army Institute of Research, updated in 2024, demonstrates this clearly. Reaction time degrades with sleep deprivation. Person A doesn't notice this in daily life. 10% slower means milliseconds. But those milliseconds matter. Those milliseconds add up in countless small moments. A driver braking, a hand steadying a cup, attention shifting when needed. Person A still feels motivated. They don't feel slower, but the measurement is clear. Biology quietly changes what motivation can achieve. Person B's reaction time remains at baseline, not because they have superior genetics, not because they're more talented, simply because their neural circuits completed proper maintenance. During sleep, particularly during stages 2 and 3, the brain consolidates motor learning and maintains synaptic efficiency. Studies from the Max Planck Institute for Human Cognitive and Brain Sciences show that sleep preserves the speed of neural signal transmission. Myelin sheaths, the insulation around neurons, remain healthy. Synaptic connections stay efficient. When person B needs to respond quickly, their nervous system can. They're not faster than person A's potential. They're simply operating at full capacity, while person A operates at reduced capacity. The gap is small but measurable. Decision-making begins to diverge. Both people face a complex work decision requiring risk assessment. Neuroimaging research from Duke University, published in late 2024, reveals that sleep deprivation alters activity in the amygdala and its connection to the prefrontal cortex. The amygdala, an almond-shaped structure deep in the brain, processes emotional significance and risk. Sleep deprivation makes the amygdala hyperactive. It sees threats more readily, opportunities less clearly. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, which normally regulates the amygdala's responses, has reduced activity. Person A approaches the decision feeling certain, but their certainty comes from impaired risk assessment, not actual clarity. They're more likely to either take unnecessary risks or avoid reasonable opportunities. Their judgment is quietly compromised. Person B's decision-making centers communicate normally. Their amygdala appropriately flags potential concerns. Their prefrontal cortex appropriately evaluates those concerns against goals and values. The dialogue between emotion and reason functions as designed. They make a measured decision, not necessarily the perfect decision. No one has perfect information, but a decision arising from properly functioning neural architecture. Research from the Society for Neuroscience confirms that optimal decision-making requires both emotional input and rational evaluation. Sleep deprivation doesn't eliminate either system. It distorts their balance. Person A is still intelligent, still capable, but they're working with slightly skewed internal data, and they don't realize it. By the end of week 1, Person A notices something. They're more irritable. Small frustrations feel larger. A colleague's comment stings more than it should. Traffic feels intolerable. These aren't personality changes. These are neurobiological changes. The Sleep and Neuroplasticity Laboratory at UC Berkeley published findings in 2024 showing that 1 week of sleep restriction significantly impairs emotional regulation. The prefrontal cortex normally dampens excessive emotional reactions from the limbic system. But with depleted resources and reduced activity, this dampening fails. Person A experiences emotions more intensely and less appropriately. They apologize for snapping at someone. They feel confused by their own reactions. Their emotional responses outpace their conscious intentions. Person B maintains stable emotional responses, not because they're naturally calmer, not because they have better emotional control, because their brain's regulatory systems function properly. When something frustrating happens, they feel frustrated at an appropriate level. The feeling passes. They move on. According to longitudinal studies on sleep and emotional health from the National Institute of Mental Health, updated through 2025, consistent, adequate sleep is one of the strongest predictors of emotional stability. It's not therapy. It's not medication. It's simply allowing the biological systems that regulate emotion to complete their maintenance cycles. Person B occasionally gets annoyed too, but their annoyance matches the situation. Their emotional thermostat is calibrated correctly. Creativity begins to suffer for Person A. Creativity, defined by cognitive scientists as the ability to form novel connections between existing knowledge, depends heavily on a specific sleep stage. REM sleep, characterized by rapid eye movements and vivid dreaming, is when the brain strengthens unusual associations and weakens obvious ones. Research from the Center for Sleep and Cognition at Harvard, published in 2025, shows that REM sleep is disproportionately reduced by sleep restriction. If someone needs 90 minutes of REM per night, but only sleeps 5 hours total, they might get 30 to 40 minutes. Person A goes to work. They try to brainstorm. They feel motivated to generate ideas. But the neural mechanism for novel associations is impaired. Person B gets full REM cycles. During the later hours of their 8-hour sleep period, REM stages lengthen. Their brain spends approximately 90 to 110 minutes in REM sleep across multiple cycles. During this time, the hippocampus communicates with the neocortex, forming unexpected connections. When Person B wakes, they sometimes have insights about problems they weren't consciously working on. This isn't magic. It's documented neuroscience from the Sleep and Plasticity Laboratory at NYU, confirmed through 2025. The sleeping brain solves problems the waking brain cannot. Person B brings creative solutions to work, not because they're more creative, but because their creativity mechanism received maintenance. By Fact 21, a crucial question surfaces. Person A is still accomplishing things. They're still showing up, still trying hard. Their motivation remains high. So why does any of this matter? This is the question many people in Person A's position ask themselves. They see themselves succeeding, or at least not obviously failing. They feel tired but functional. And here's the subtle trap. Short-term outcomes can mask long-term degradation. A meta-analysis from the Journal of Sleep Research, published in late 2024, examined this exact phenomenon. People consistently overestimate their performance when sleep-deprived. They feel they're operating at 80% capacity when they're actually at 65%. The gap between perception and reality widens with each night. Person B doesn't feel dramatically better than Person A. This is important to understand. They're not euphoric. They're not superhuman. They simply feel normal, clear, steady. The absence of impairment feels unremarkable because it's their baseline. This is part of why sleep's importance is so undervalued. Its benefits are quiet. You don't feel sleep making you smarter. You just think normally. You don't feel sleep making you emotionally stable. You just respond appropriately. The benefits are invisible precisely because they're fundamental. It's like breathing. You don't notice your breathing when it's working correctly. You only notice when it's compromised. Person B performs well because their brain works as designed. Attention span shows measurable differences by week 2. The sustained attention to response task. A neuroscience assessment tool reveals that Person A's ability to maintain focus on boring but important tasks has declined significantly. Research from the Attention and Performance Laboratory at University of Michigan, updated in 2025, shows this clearly. Sleep deprivation doesn't just make you sleepy. It makes sustained attention neurologically difficult. The brain's arousal systems, regulated by neurotransmitters like orexin, norepinephrine, and histamine, become dysregulated. Person A sits at their desk, motivated to focus, but their attention drifts. They reread paragraphs. They catch themselves staring at the screen without processing information. Person B maintains attention naturally. Their arousal systems function properly. When they need to focus on a tedious task, their brain can sustain that focus. Not indefinitely. No one can focus forever, but for appropriate durations. They work for 45 minutes. Take a brief break. Work again. The rhythm feels natural because it aligns with their brain's ultradian rhythms. The shorter cycles within the day. Sleep research from the Netherlands Institute for Neuroscience, published in 2024, confirms that good sleep strengthens the brain's ability to regulate its own alertness. Person B isn't trying harder to pay attention than Person A. They're working with intact attention systems. The difference is biological, not motivational. At the end of week 2, we reach a critical realization. Person A and Person B started with equal motivation, equal talent, equal opportunity. The only difference was sleep, and already, subtle but measurable gaps have appeared. Reaction time, decision-making, emotional regulation, creativity, attention span. Person A is still functional, still motivated, but they're operating on a compromised platform. They don't feel dramatically impaired because impairment became their new normal. The question we're answering, how does sleep control performance more than motivation, is beginning to reveal itself. Motivation is the signal. Sleep is the system receiving that signal. A strong signal means nothing if the receiver is damaged. So yes, motivation matters. But sleep determines whether motivation can translate into performance. Let's continue deeper. Let's pause here and notice your body. As you breathe out slowly, appreciate each tiny cell inside. Trillions of organisms working in silence. Heart beating, lungs breathing, brain thinking, all without your command. Notice the gentle sensations on your skin, in your muscles, along your spine. You are a complete ecosystem, diverse, self-balancing. Now we continue. Let's examine what Person A believes is working. By week 3, they've developed coping mechanisms. More caffeine in the morning, a power nap at lunch if possible, earlier bedtime on weekends to catch up. These strategies come from articles, podcasts, productivity gurus, and for a while, they seem to help. Person A doesn't collapse. They meet deadlines. Their manager hasn't noticed problems. From the outside, their approach looks sustainable. Research from the Sleep Disorders Clinic at Johns Hopkins, published in 2024, identifies this as the functional impairment phase. The person functions well enough to avoid consequences, but poorly enough to accumulate damage. It's the dangerous middle ground where behavior continues because problems aren't yet obvious. Person B continues their consistent 8 hours. No heroic effort required. No complex strategies. Just consistent sleep and wake times. Their weekends look like their weekdays. This might seem boring. It lacks the dramatic intensity of Person A's approach. There's no story of staying up all night to finish a project. No badge of honor. But population studies from the Centers for Disease Control, updated through 2025, show that boring consistency predicts better outcomes than exciting inconsistency in almost every health domain. Person B isn't trying to optimize every night. They're simply maintaining the baseline their biology requires, like eating food or drinking water. Essential maintenance, performed regularly, without drama. The first major project deadline arrives. Both people must deliver complex work under time pressure. Person A approaches this with their familiar strategy. Intensity. They work late several nights in a row, sleeping even less than usual. 4 hours. Sometimes 3. They consume energy drinks. They feel focused by urgency. Research from MIT's Sloan School of Management, published in 2024, shows that acute stress can temporarily enhance performance through cortisol and adrenaline release. For 24 to 48 hours, Person A actually performs quite well. The stress hormones mask their accumulated sleep debt. They deliver good work. They feel validated. This confirms their belief when it really matters. Motivation overcomes tiredness. Person B approaches the deadline differently. They work efficiently during their regular hours. They maintain their 8-hour sleep schedule, even on deadline week. This requires saying no to some requests, delegating tasks, being selective about scope. They deliver good work too. Perhaps not quite as much volume as Person A, but high quality, thoughtfully done. The project succeeds. Both approaches appeared to work, and this is the crucial moment that shapes beliefs. Person A thinks, "See, I can sacrifice sleep when needed and still perform." Person B thinks, "Consistent rest allowed me to handle pressure calmly." Same outcome, different lessons learned. One lesson aligns with biology. The other will eventually fail. After the deadline, Person A crashes. This is documented in occupational health research from the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, updated in 2025. After periods of intense sleep deprivation, the body forces recovery. Person A sleeps 11 hours on Saturday. They feel groggy and disoriented. Their immune system, suppressed by chronic stress and sleep loss, allows a minor infection to take hold. They develop a cold. They spend Sunday recovering. By Monday, they're back to their 5-hour schedule, believing the weekend recharged them. But sleep debt accumulates differently than we imagine. You can't fully repay chronic restriction with one long night. The immune suppression persists. Person B experiences no crash. They maintained homeostasis throughout. Their immune system, supported by adequate sleep, functions normally. Studies from the Carnegie Mellon University Sleep Laboratory, published in 2023 and validated through 2025, demonstrate that people sleeping less than 6 hours per night are 4 times more likely to catch colds than those sleeping 7+ hours. Person B doesn't catch the cold circulating the office. Not luck, biology. During sleep, the immune system produces cytokines, proteins that fight infection and inflammation. Person B's body made these protective molecules every night. Person A's body tried, but the shortened sleep window limited production. Small differences in nightly habits create large differences in health resilience. Memory formation shows diverging patterns. Both people attended the same training session last month. Today, they're tested on that material. Person A studied the content, motivated to remember. But research from the Center for Neural Science at NYU, published in late 2024, reveals what happened during their sleep. Memories consolidate during specific sleep stages. Stage 2 sleep stabilizes procedural memories. Stage 3 deepens declarative memories. REM sleep integrates new information with existing knowledge. Person A got truncated versions of each stage. They remember the general concepts from training, but details are fuzzy. Nuances are lost. They need to check their notes repeatedly. They feel frustrated by their unclear recall. Person B remembers the training clearly. They can recall specific examples, procedures, even approximate wording from key points. Their sleeping brain completed the work of memory consolidation. The Sleep and Memory Laboratory at UC Irvine, through research updated in 2025, has shown this process in detail. During sleep, neural patterns from the day replay at accelerated speeds. Each replay strengthens the synaptic connections representing that memory. Person B's brain completed hundreds of these replay events. Person A's brain attempted them but was interrupted by waking. Same training, same motivation to learn. Different sleep, different memory outcomes. The accumulation continues invisibly. By week 6, Person A has restricted sleep to 5 hours or less for approximately 42 nights. That's roughly 150 hours of deficit compared to their biological need. Research from the Sleep and Performance Research Center at Washington State University. A landmark study published in 2023 and confirmed through 2025 shows that this level of chronic restriction produces measurable cognitive impairment, affecting judgment and coordination in ways we rarely notice consciously. Person A would never drive drunk. They'd never show up to work intoxicated. Yet they're operating with compromised neural function daily. And because it developed gradually, they've adapted to it psychologically. Impairment became invisible. Person B maintains clarity. 6 weeks of consistent 8-hour sleep means their baseline never shifted. They operate from full capacity each day. The concept of baseline is crucial. Neuroscience research from the Brain and Cognitive Sciences Department at MIT, updated in 2024, demonstrates that the brain constantly recalibrates what feels normal based on recent experience. If you're chronically tired, chronic tiredness becomes your reference point. You forget what full alertness feels like. Person B hasn't forgotten. They didn't experience the gradual decline, so they maintained perspective. They know what their brain feels like when properly maintained. This awareness itself is valuable. It prevents accepting impairment as inevitable. Work performance metrics begin to tell the story that subjective experience masks. Both people receive quarterly reviews. Person A's review is mixed. Strong effort praised, but concerns noted. Occasional errors. Some missed details. Communication sometimes unclear. A few deadlines extended. Person A feels confused by this feedback. They work harder than almost anyone. They stay late. They rarely take breaks. How can their effort not translate to results? This confusion is central to our question. Person A believes effort equals output. But for knowledge work, which depends on cognitive function, effort is mediated by brain capacity. High effort on impaired cognition still produces suboptimal results. Biology sets the boundaries. Person B's review is consistently positive. Reliable work, clear communication, good judgment. Nothing spectacular, just steady competence. Person B works regular hours. They leave on time most days. Yet their output quality matches or exceeds Person A's despite fewer hours invested. This seems paradoxical until you understand cognitive efficiency. Research from productivity studies at Stanford, published in 2024, shows that well-rested workers accomplish measurably more per hour than sleep-deprived workers. Some studies suggest 20 to 30% gains. Person B works 45 focused hours weekly. Person A works 55 scattered hours weekly. Person B produces more because their hours are neurologically productive. Stress responses differ markedly. Both face an unexpected crisis at work, a client upset, a deadline moved forward, plans collapsing. Person A's stress response is intense. Their already elevated cortisol spikes higher. Their heart rate increases dramatically. They feel overwhelmed. Their breath quickening. Thoughts racing. According to research from the Yale Stress Center, updated through 2025, sleep-deprived individuals have exaggerated physiological responses to stressors. Their sympathetic nervous system becomes hyperactive. Their parasympathetic nervous system becomes sluggish. Person A handles the crisis but pays a high physiological cost. Their body treats a work problem like a life-threatening emergency. Person B experiences the same crisis with moderation. They feel stressed appropriately. Their cortisol rises, providing helpful alertness and focus. But it doesn't spike to overwhelming levels. Their parasympathetic system remains active, preventing total overwhelm. They solve the problem methodically. Research from the Center for Stress and Health at Carnegie Mellon University shows that adequate sleep maintains the flexibility of stress response systems. You can activate fight or flight when needed, then deactivate it when the threat passes. Person A's system gets stuck on. Person B's system responds proportionally. Same external stress. Different internal biology. Sleep determined which brain received that stress signal, and thus how it could respond. At Fact 40, the comparison enters a critical phase. For 10 weeks, both approaches seemed workable. Person A accomplished things despite poor sleep. They proved, at least to themselves, that motivation matters more than rest. But we're about to see what happens when short-term coping strategies meet longer-term biological realities. Studies can't override evolution. Motivation can't reprogram neuroscience. The human brain evolved to require certain maintenance cycles. When we skip that maintenance, we don't eliminate the need. We just defer the consequences. Person A is about to learn this. Person B continues their steady path. The next 40 facts reveal what happens when biology stops tolerating shortcuts. Let's continue. If you're still awake, still listening to these stories of sleep and performance, that means curiosity hasn't fully rested yet. And that's okay. Take a gentle breath. Feel the weight of your body on the bed, grounded like ancient stone. We're wandering through performance science together, discovering why rest matters more than we realized. And we'll keep going. Slowly. Month 3 marks a turning point. Person A's coping strategies stop working as effectively. The caffeine that used to provide clear alertness now just prevents complete exhaustion. The weekend catch-up sleep no longer makes Monday feel fresh. Research from the Sleep Medicine Division at Harvard Medical School, updated in 2025, documents this phenomenon called allostatic load. It's the accumulated wear and tear from chronic stress on the body. For weeks, Person A's stress systems compensated. Cortisol stayed elevated. Adrenaline fired frequently. But these systems weren't designed for perpetual activation. They're designed for short-term emergencies. 3 months of emergency mode living exhausts them. Person A notices everything feels harder now. Simple tasks require unusual effort. Answering emails feels exhausting. Conversations require intense concentration. Person A forgets why they walked into a room. They lose their keys twice in 1 week. These aren't signs of aging or stupidity. They're signs of a prefrontal cortex operating under severe metabolic stress. The Northwestern University Cognitive Neurology and Alzheimer's Disease Center, through research published in 2024, shows that chronic sleep restriction affects the prefrontal cortex similarly to early neurodegeneration. Not permanently, sleep restoration reverses most effects. But functionally, while the restriction continues, Person A's brain is struggling to perform basic executive functions. Yet they still blame themselves for not trying hard enough. Person B maintains consistent performance. Month 3 looks like month 1. Their energy remains stable. Their focus stays sharp. This consistency is the compound effect of nightly restoration. Financial experts talk about compound interest. Small gains accumulating into large returns over time. Sleep works similarly. Each night of proper rest doesn't produce dramatic improvements, but the cumulative effect over months is substantial. Research from the Sleep Disorders Center at Northwestern University, published in late 2024, tracking workers over 6 months, found that consistent sleepers showed no performance degradation, while inconsistent sleepers showed progressive decline. Person B isn't getting better at their job. They're simply not getting worse through preventable impairment. The error rate tells an objective story. Both people work with detailed information requiring accuracy. Person A's error rate has tripled since week 1. They transpose numbers. They miss steps in procedures. They misunderstand instructions. Not because they're careless, because sleep deprivation impairs attentional control. Studies from the Human Factors Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, updated through 2025, show that attentional lapses, brief moments where the brain essentially goes offline, increase exponentially with sleep debt. Person A experiences dozens of these microsleeps daily. Each lasts just 1 to 3 seconds, too brief to notice consciously, long enough to miss critical information. Their motivation to be accurate doesn't prevent these neurological lapses. Person B's error rate remains low and stable, not zero. Perfect accuracy is impossible, but consistent with their baseline. Their attention systems function reliably. When they're reading information, their brain processes that information continuously. No micro-sleeps, no attentional gaps. The difference in error rates between them isn't small anymore. It's a threefold difference. In some professions, this gap is inconvenient. In others, healthcare, transportation, aviation, it's concerning. Both people care about accuracy. Both are motivated to do good work. But Person B's neurons fire reliably when needed. Person A's neurons sometimes miss signals. Biology determines what motivation can achieve. Learning capacity diverges sharply. Both people attend training for new software. Person A sits in class, trying desperately to focus. They take detailed notes. They ask questions. They want to learn. But research from the Center for Learning and Memory at UT Austin, published in 2024, reveals the problem. Learning requires neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form and strengthen new synaptic connections. Neuroplasticity depends heavily on sleep. During sleep, particularly during slow-wave sleep, the brain produces brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, a protein essential for forming new neural connections. Person A's BDNF production is suppressed by chronic sleep restriction. They're trying to learn with a brain that's biochemically resistant to forming new connections. Person B learns the new software efficiently. The training feels natural. Concepts connecting easily. That night, their sleeping brain quietly practices what they learned, strengthening the neural pathways without conscious effort. The Sleep and Memory Laboratory at UC Irvine documents how this happens. During sleep, the brain doesn't just rest. It actively rehearses new skills, integrating them with existing knowledge. When Person B uses the software the next day, it feels familiar, not completely mastered, but accessible. Their brain completed the learning process overnight. Person A uses the software the next day and struggles. They remember being taught, but the neural pathways didn't solidify. Interpersonal relationships begin suffering. Person A is short with family, impatient with friends, withdrawn at social gatherings. They don't want to be this way. They feel guilty. But emotional bandwidth, the capacity to engage warmly with others, requires neurological resources. Research from the Social Cognitive Neuroscience Laboratory at UCLA, updated through 2025, demonstrates that sleep deprivation reduces activity in the medial prefrontal cortex, a region crucial for empathy and social cognition. Person A looks at their partner, wants to be present, but feels emotionally distant. Their brain doesn't have the resources for complex social processing. Good intentions meet biological limitations. Person B maintains relationship quality. After work, they have energy for conversation. They listen actively. They remember what their partner mentioned yesterday. They laugh at jokes. These aren't superhuman abilities. These are normal human capacities, available when the brain functions properly. Social engagement requires the orbitofrontal cortex, the anterior cingulate, the temporal lobes, all working together. These systems need sleep to maintain connectivity. Studies from the Relationships Laboratory at UC Berkeley show that couples where both partners sleep well report higher relationship satisfaction than couples where one or both are chronically sleep deprived. Person B isn't a better partner than person A wants to be. They just have a brain capable of partnership. At the halfway point, the comparison reveals a fundamental truth. We're answering how sleep controls performance more than motivation. And the answer emerging is this: sleep doesn't just support performance. Sleep creates the biological capacity for performance to exist. Motivation is important. It directs effort, sustains focus, pushes through momentary discomfort. But motivation operates within the constraints of biology. You cannot motivate neurons to fire faster than their metabolic state allows. You cannot will neurotransmitters into existence. You cannot think your way into synaptic efficiency. Sleep provides the biological substrate. Motivation provides the direction. Remove sleep, and motivation has nothing to work with. We're halfway through this journey. The full answer awaits. Let each breath guide you to realize time is yours, a separate stream that only you are living, while the vast universe continues to spin, expand, change. This second you're breathing, listening, is unique. Cherish the present moment, knowing that right now, your time is unique in the universe. And we continue drifting. 6 months into the comparison, person A faces a crisis. They wake one morning feeling utterly depleted, as if their body has quietly stopped cooperating. This is clinical burnout, documented by the Burnout Research Laboratory at Stanford. Through studies published in 2024, burnout isn't psychological weakness, it's biological depletion. The adrenal glands, which produce cortisol, become exhausted. Neurotransmitter systems become dysregulated. The brain, after months of insufficient maintenance, initiates a forced shutdown. Person A's doctor recommends medical leave, sleep studies, mental health evaluation. Person A feels shocked. They were just trying to succeed. Person B continues working steadily. No crisis, no burnout, no forced leave. They experience stress sometimes. They have challenging days, but their stress responses remain proportional and temporary. Research from the Mayo Clinic, updated in 2025, identifies sleep as the single strongest buffer against burnout. Not because sleep eliminates stress, because sleep allows the stress response systems to reset. Every night, person B's hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis returns to baseline. Their cortisol levels normalize. Their brain repairs stress-induced cellular damage. The problems at work are similar for both people. The biological capacity to handle those problems is vastly different. During person A's medical leave, sleep studies reveal fragmented sleep architecture. Even when they try to sleep 8 hours, they wake frequently. Their sleep efficiency, the percentage of time in bed actually spent asleep, is only 70%. Healthy adults typically achieve 85 to 95% efficiency. Years of restriction damaged their sleep regulation systems. The neurons that produce wake-promoting orexin became hyperactive. The neurons that produce sleep-promoting GABA became underactive. Research from the Sleep Disorders Center at Johns Hopkins shows this takes months to repair. Person A needs treatment. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, possibly temporary medication, and most critically, Time for healing. Person B's sleep efficiency remains high, around 90%. They fall asleep within 15 minutes most nights. They wake once or twice briefly, then return to sleep easily. They wake naturally in the morning, feeling restored. This isn't luck or genetics. It's the result of consistent sleep habits, maintaining healthy sleep systems. The two-process model of sleep regulation, updated by sleep researchers in 2024, explains this. Process S, sleep pressure, builds during waking. Process C, circadian timing, regulates when sleep occurs. Both processes function optimally in Person B. Person A's processes became dysregulated. Biology cannot be ignored indefinitely without consequences. The long-term health implications become measurable. Person A's blood work shows concerning patterns. Elevated fasting glucose, indicating insulin resistance. High inflammatory markers, early signs of metabolic syndrome. These aren't separate health problems. They're consequences of chronic sleep restriction. Research from the Diabetes Prevention Program, with findings published through 2025, demonstrates that sleeping less than 6 hours nightly increases diabetes risk by approximately 37%. The mechanism is clear. Sleep deprivation increases insulin resistance, disrupts glucose metabolism, and promotes fat storage, particularly visceral fat around organs. Person A's metabolic health deteriorated while they focused on career performance. They sacrificed long-term health for short-term productivity. Person B's health markers remain normal. Blood glucose steady, inflammation low, healthy blood pressure, body composition stable. They exercise moderately, eat reasonably. Nothing extreme. Their health isn't perfect, but their baseline metabolic function remains sound. Studies from the American Heart Association, updated in 2025, show that adequate sleep duration and quality are among the strongest predictors of cardiovascular health, independent of diet and exercise. Person B's 8 hours nightly protected their metabolic systems even during stressful work periods. Sleep acted as a biological shield. Person A's 5 hours removed that shield, exposing their organs to chronic stress damage. Mental health differences become undeniable. Person A develops anxiety and depression symptoms, persistent worry, loss of enjoyment in activities, hopelessness about the future. Their psychiatrist diagnoses major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. The treatment includes medication and therapy, but the psychiatrist also emphasizes sleep restoration. Research from the National Institute of Mental Health, published in 2024, confirms that chronic sleep restriction is both a symptom and a cause of mood disorders. The relationship is bidirectional. Poor sleep worsens mood. Depression disrupts sleep. Person A entered a negative spiral. Their initial approach created the mental health crisis they now face. Person B maintains stable mood. They experience sadness when appropriate, anxiety when facing genuine threats. But these emotions pass. Their baseline emotional state is contentedly neutral. This isn't personality. It's neurobiology. The serotonin system, which regulates mood, requires sleep for proper function. During sleep, the brain synthesizes and regulates serotonin receptors. Studies from the Depression Research Laboratory at Columbia University show that even partial sleep deprivation significantly alters serotonin function within days. Person B's consistent sleep maintained their serotonin system. They're not immune to life's difficulties, but their brain has the neurochemical foundation to handle difficulties without collapsing into depression. Cognitive testing reveals dramatic differences. Both people complete a neuropsychological assessment. Person A's results show impairment across multiple domains. Working memory in the 15th percentile. Processing speed in the 20th percentile. Executive function in the 25th percentile. Their IQ hasn't changed, but their ability to access their intelligence is severely compromised. The neuropsychologist's report notes that these deficits are consistent with chronic sleep deprivation and likely reversible with treatment. But Person A sees these numbers and feels devastated. They believed they were functioning normally. The objective data reveals how much capacity they lost. Biology set limits that motivation couldn't overcome. Person B's cognitive testing shows normal function across all domains. Working memory in the 60th percentile. Processing speed in the 65th percentile. Executive function in the 70th percentile. Not genius level, just solid. Reliable cognition. Their brain operates at its natural capacity because nothing impaired it. The World Health Organization, in guidance updated through 2025, now classifies chronic sleep restriction as a significant public health concern precisely because of these cognitive effects. Entire populations performing below capacity because of a solvable problem. Person B avoided this simply by respecting their biology. Accident risk tells a sobering story. Person A, during their 6 months of sleep restriction, had 3 minor car accidents, fender benders in parking lots, 1 instance of drifting into another lane. The police weren't called. No one was hurt. But each incident was a near miss of something worse. Research from the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety, updated through 2025, shows that drowsy driving significantly increases accident risk, creating dangers we rarely acknowledge. Sleep deprivation slows reaction time, similarly to alcohol intoxication. Person A wouldn't drive drunk, but they drove drowsy hundreds of times, never recognizing the equivalent danger. Person B had no accidents, not because they're a better driver, because their brain could process road information at normal speed, could notice pedestrians, could react to sudden stops. Driving requires constant vigilance, rapid decision-making, coordinated motor responses. These functions depend on an alert, well-maintained brain. Studies from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration confirm that well-rested drivers have accident rates dramatically lower than sleep-restricted drivers. Person B's commute was as long as Person A's. Traffic was similar. The cars they drove had equivalent safety features. The critical difference was the brain behind the wheel. Biology determined safety. Financial decisions show the performance gap clearly. Person A made several poor financial choices during their sleep-deprived months. Impulse purchases, risky investments, contracts signed without proper review. They lost money, not catastrophically, but measurably. Behavioral economics research from the University of Chicago, published in 2024, demonstrates that sleep deprivation impairs financial decision-making through multiple mechanisms. Risk assessment becomes distorted. Future consequences are undervalued. Impulse control weakens. Person A had financial knowledge. They understood budgets and investments. But their impaired prefrontal cortex couldn't apply that knowledge effectively. Good intentions met biological limitations. Person B managed money reasonably. They made some financial mistakes too. Everyone does. But nothing dramatic. Their financial trajectory remained stable. They saved consistently, avoided impulsive purchases, reviewed major decisions carefully. Not because they had superior financial knowledge, but because their brain could execute normal financial reasoning. The anterior, insular, and ventromedial prefrontal cortex, regions crucial for evaluating rewards and risks, functioned properly. Research shows these regions are highly sensitive to sleep deprivation. Person B's intact decision-making systems protected their financial well-being. Same economic environment, same income level, different sleep, different financial outcomes. By month 9, the comparison is undeniable. Person A, with high motivation but low sleep, burned out, developed health problems, impaired their cognition, damaged relationships, and compromised safety. Person B, with moderate motivation but adequate sleep, maintained steady performance, preserved health, sustained relationships, and avoided crises. The question we asked was, how does sleep control performance more than motivation? The answer at Fact 65 is becoming clear. Sleep doesn't enhance motivation. Sleep creates the biological platform on which motivation can operate. Without that platform, motivation struggles like software trying to run on broken hardware. Biology always prevails eventually. Let's examine why this matters beyond this comparison. According to the National Sleep Foundation's data from 2025, approximately 35% of American adults report sleeping less than 7 hours nightly. That's roughly 80 million people performing below capacity. Not because they lack motivation, not because they're lazy or undisciplined, because they're biologically impaired. Imagine the cumulative effect. Millions of doctors making slightly worse diagnoses. Millions of drivers reacting slightly slower. Millions of parents with slightly less emotional patience. Millions of workers making slightly more errors. The societal cost of sleep deprivation is incalculable. Person B represents what becomes possible when we align behavior with biology. Not extraordinary performance, just reliable, sustainable capacity. Economic research estimates that sleep deprivation costs hundreds of billions of dollars annually through lost productivity, accidents, and healthcare costs. That's larger than many countries' entire GDP. Person B's approach doesn't maximize short-term output, but it maximizes sustainable output over years and decades. In career terms, Person B will likely outperform Person A cumulatively, even though Person A occasionally produces impressive short-term results. Consistency beats intensity when measured across lifetimes. The reversibility question is important. Can Person A recover? Research from the Sleep Recovery Laboratory at Washington State University, published in 2025, offers hope. Most effects of sleep deprivation are reversible with sustained recovery. The brain is remarkably plastic. Given adequate sleep for several months, cognitive function returns, emotional regulation improves, health markers normalize. But recovery requires genuine change. Person A must sleep 7 to 9 hours consistently for months. Old coping strategies must end. New habits must form. It's possible, but it requires accepting that motivation alone isn't enough. It requires respecting biology as the foundation of performance. Person B never needed recovery because they never damaged their systems. This is the power of prevention. Sleep research increasingly emphasizes this. The Sleep Research Society's 2025 guidelines stress that maintaining consistent, adequate sleep is far more effective than attempting to catch up after deprivation. The biological systems damaged by chronic restriction, the endocrine system, immune system, cardiovascular system, nervous system, take time to heal. Some damage, particularly to cardiovascular health, may be partially irreversible. Person B avoided all this simply by sleeping. Prevention required no heroic effort, just basic respect for biological needs. Performance sustainability is the ultimate measure. Both people wanted successful careers. Person A pursued success through intensity and sacrifice. Person B pursued success through consistency and maintenance. At the 2-year mark, Person B is still performing well. Person A is on medical leave, recovering from burnout, addressing multiple health issues. Who succeeded? By short-term metrics. Person A seemed more dedicated. By long-term outcomes. Person B was wiser. Research from Organizational Psychology, published in 2024, shows that sustainable high performers prioritize recovery as much as effort. Elite athletes understand this. Top performers in any field eventually learn. You can't sprint a marathon. The genetics question arises. Are some people naturally able to function on less sleep? Research from the Human Sleep Laboratory at UC San Francisco identified a genetic mutation in the DEC2 gene that allows approximately 1% of the population to feel fully rested on 6 hours. 1%. The media attention on these short sleepers created a dangerous misconception. 99% of people claiming to function fine on minimal sleep are actually impaired. According to studies published through 2025, Person A believed they were that rare exception. Testing proved otherwise. Most people underestimate how much sleep they need. Person B never questioned their sleep needs. They listened to their body. When tired, they slept. This seems simple, yet cultural pressures make it difficult. The glorification of busyness. The equation of sleep with laziness. The belief that success requires sacrifice. Person B resisted these messages, not through heroic willpower, but through understanding biology. They recognized that their brain is an organ requiring maintenance. You wouldn't skip dialysis because you're too busy. You wouldn't refuse insulin because you're highly motivated. Sleep is similarly essential for brain health. Person B treated it accordingly. The comparison reveals something profound about human nature. We want to believe that willpower conquers biology. That determination overcomes limitations. That motivation matters most. These beliefs feel empowering. They suggest we control our destiny through mental strength alone. But they're incomplete. Yes. Motivation matters. Yes. Effort counts. But both operate within biological constraints. A motivated person with a well-maintained brain outperforms an equally motivated person with an impaired brain. Always. Without exception. Person A wasn't weak. Person B wasn't superior. They made different choices about biological maintenance. Those choices determined what their equal motivations could achieve. Sleep research from the past decade, synthesized in meta-analyses published through 2025, reaches consistent conclusions. Sleep is not optional. It's not luxury. It's not something we can train ourselves to need less. The human brain requires 7 to 9 hours of sleep per 24-hour period for optimal function. Individual variation exists within that range, but the range itself is determined by millions of years of evolution. Person A tried to override evolution with caffeine and willpower. Evolution won. Person B aligned with evolution. They experienced no battle because they weren't fighting biology. Wisdom sometimes means accepting limits. At Fact 75, we're ready for the final section. The comparison between Person A and Person B has shown us something crucial. Sleep doesn't just support performance. Sleep is the foundation that determines whether performance is possible. Motivation directs a well-functioning brain toward goals. But motivation cannot repair a malfunctioning brain. The hierarchy is clear. Sleep creates capacity. Capacity enables performance. Performance channels motivation. Remove sleep, and the entire chain collapses. Person A learned this painfully. Person B never doubted it. The final facts will integrate this understanding into wisdom about how to live. Let's complete this journey together. You might be feeling tired now. That's perfectly fine. Breathe slowly. Feel the cycles. Your breath. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. A small cycle within the vast universe, like the cycle of waking and sleeping, repeated every day of your life. You are part of that eternal movement. You don't need to hold on to anything. Let everything unfold in its perfect order, like waves rolling to shore, unhurried, unresisting, simply existing. We're almost there now. So could sleep control performance more than motivation? It already does. Person A's story is not unique. Millions live it daily. Believing discipline can substitute for rest. Person B's path is rarer but available to anyone. The verdict is clear. Motivation is powerful but bounded by biology. Sleep determines those bounds. This isn't disappointing news. It's liberating. You don't need superhuman willpower to perform well. You need adequate sleep. The struggle Person A experienced wasn't necessary. The cultural shift required is enormous. We celebrate all-nighters. Early morning workouts after late nights. Working through exhaustion. These behaviors are presented as admirable dedication. But neuroscience says they're self-sabotage. Organizations are beginning to recognize this. Progressive companies now monitor employee sleep patterns, offer sleep education, even provide nap rooms. Research from the Harvard Business Review, published in 2024, shows companies prioritizing employee sleep see improvements in productivity, creativity, safety, and morale. For individuals, the application is immediate. Whatever your goals, sleep determines how effectively you'll pursue them. Want to learn new skills? Sleep consolidates learning. Want to solve complex problems? Sleep enables insights. Want to build muscle? Sleep produces growth hormone. Want healthy relationships? Sleep maintains emotional regulation. Want to avoid illness? Sleep strengthens immunity. Want to make good decisions? Sleep preserves judgment. Every goal you have depends on a well-functioning brain. Sleep maintains that function. The practical steps are straightforward. Establish a consistent sleep schedule, 7 days a week. Create a dark, cool, quiet bedroom. Limit screen time before bed. Avoid caffeine after early afternoon. These recommendations appear in every sleep guide, yet fewer than 30% of adults follow them. According to 2025 data. Why? Because knowledge doesn't change behavior without understanding the stakes. Understanding transforms the priority. From "I should sleep more" to "protecting my sleep" allows everything else to work. The resistance to prioritizing sleep often comes from fear. Fear that sleeping 8 hours means accomplishing less. Fear that others will work harder and surpass you. Fear that rest equals laziness. These fears are understandable, but misguided. Person B accomplished more than Person A in the long term while sleeping more. Studies consistently show well-rested people work more efficiently. You don't need more hours. You need better functioning hours. 8 focused hours outperform 12 scattered hours. Some situations genuinely require temporary sleep sacrifice. New parents, medical residents, emergency responders, military deployment. These are real constraints. But even in these contexts, maximizing sleep within constraints matters. Getting 5 hours is better than getting 4. Napping when possible helps. And critically, recognizing these periods as temporary exceptions, not sustainable lifestyles, is essential. The human body can handle short-term stress remarkably well, but short-term means days or weeks, not months or years. Biology tolerates brief exceptions. The relationship between sleep and motivation is actually synergistic, not oppositional. Good sleep increases motivation. When your brain functions well, goals feel achievable, tasks feel manageable, obstacles feel conquerable. Sleep deprivation does the opposite. Everything feels harder. Goals feel distant. Research from the Motivation Science Laboratory at UCLA, published in 2025, shows sleep-deprived individuals experience reduced dopamine receptor availability. They literally feel less motivated because their reward systems function poorly. Person A's declining motivation wasn't psychological failure. It was biochemical consequence. The concept of discipline needs reframing. True discipline isn't ignoring biological needs. True discipline is consistently meeting them. Person B demonstrated more discipline than Person A. They maintained their sleep schedule even when tempted to stay up. They said no to activities that would compromise rest. They prioritized long-term capacity over short-term gains. This is harder than it sounds in a culture glorifying hustle. Saying "I need to sleep" risks being seen as uncommitted. But Person B's results speak clearly. For parents, the implications are profound. Children need even more sleep than adults. Teenagers need 8 to 10 hours. Yet school schedules, homework loads, and activities often prevent this. Research from the Adolescent Sleep Laboratory at UC Berkeley shows sleep-deprived teenagers experience increased depression, anxiety, poor academic performance, and risky behaviors. Parents who prioritize their own sleep model healthy behavior. Families that protect sleep time create environments where everyone functions better. Children benefit from sleep-respecting schedules, just as adults do. The medical community increasingly recognizes sleep as a vital sign. Doctors now ask about sleep duration and quality during checkups. Sleep disorders clinics have multiplied. Insurance covers sleep studies, This reflects growing evidence that sleep affects every system in the body. The American Medical Association, in guidelines updated through 2025, recommends screening all patients for sleep adequacy. Untreated sleep disorders contribute to hypertension, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, stroke, dementia, and numerous other conditions. Person A's health deterioration began with sleep restriction. The economic argument for sleep is compelling. Person A's medical leave, healthcare costs, reduced productivity, and eventual need for treatment are expensive. Person B's consistent performance requires no crisis intervention. At the societal level, economic research suggests that improving population sleep would increase productivity substantially, with effects comparable to other major public health interventions. Sleep isn't a personal weakness to hide. It's an asset to protect. Organizations that recognize this will outcompete those that don't. Technology offers both problems and solutions. Smartphones and screens delay sleep through blue light exposure and mental stimulation, but apps can also track sleep patterns, provide sleep education, and remind users of bedtime. Person B used technology mindfully. Phone off by 9 p.m. Alarm set for a consistent wake time. Sleep tracking to ensure adequate duration. Person A used technology thoughtlessly. Screen time until midnight. Inconsistent schedules. Same tools. Different choices. Technology amplifies our decisions. The role of stress management deserves attention. Person A experienced high stress from work, but their sleep deprivation made stress management neurologically impossible. Person B experienced similar stress, but could manage it effectively because their emotional regulation systems functioned. Stress is inevitable. How our brains handle stress is variable. Sleep is the most powerful stress management tool available, better than meditation, exercise, or therapy alone, though those help too. A stressed brain that's well rested can cope. The concept of work-life balance often misses the point. The real balance is between activity and recovery. Person A had no balance because they had no recovery. Person B maintained balance by treating recovery as seriously as work. In sports science, this is well understood. Elite athletes spend as much time on recovery as training. Yet in knowledge work, we ignore this principle. We're all cognitive athletes. Our brains need recovery like muscles need rest. The question of sleep quality versus quantity matters. Both are important. Person B got 8 hours of high-quality sleep, deep stages, full REM cycles, minimal wake-ups. Person A, even when they tried to sleep longer, had poor quality, fragmented sleep, shallow stages. Their sleep system was damaged by months of restriction. Quality and quantity interact. You need adequate hours to cycle through all sleep stages. But those hours must be reasonably consolidated. Natural, healthy sleep remains the gold standard. The role of environment is significant. Person B optimized their bedroom, cool temperature around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Complete darkness with blackout curtains. Quiet or white noise. Comfortable mattress. These details matter because they affect sleep quality measurably. Research from the National Sleep Foundation shows bedroom environment accounts for approximately 20 to 30% of sleep quality variance. Person A slept in a bright, warm room with their phone nearby. Their environment undermined sleep even when they had time. The chronotype concept is important. Some people are natural early risers. Most are intermediate. And some are evening types. This is partially genetic. Person B aligned their schedule with their natural chronotype when possible. Person A fought their chronotype, forcing an early schedule despite being an evening type. Research from the Chronobiology Institute at Ludwig Maximilian University, published in 2024, shows chronotype misalignment increases sleep debt, even when sleep duration is adequate. Respecting your natural rhythm works with biology. The future of work may depend on sleep science. As automation handles routine tasks, human workers increasingly provide creativity, judgment, and emotional intelligence. All of these depend entirely on sleep. Organizations that structure work around human biological needs will attract and retain top talent. Flexible schedules, remote work options, no expectation of constant availability. These policies acknowledge that humans aren't machines. Person B would thrive in such organizations. The companies recognizing this truth first will have competitive advantages. The personal meaning is what matters most. Person A wanted to succeed and believed sacrifice proved commitment. They learned painfully that sacrifice without sustainability is self-destruction. Person B wanted to succeed and believed capacity enabled achievement. They learned peacefully that respecting biology creates lasting success. Both people cared deeply about their work. Both tried hard. The difference was wisdom about what the brain needs. Your brain is the tool you use for everything. Maintaining that tool isn't selfish. It's foundational. The answer to our question is now complete. How does sleep control performance more than motivation? Sleep creates the biological capacity for performance. Motivation directs that capacity toward goals. But motivation without capacity is futile. A motivated person with an impaired brain underperforms an equally motivated person with a healthy brain. Always. Without exception. Person A proved this painfully. Person B proved this peacefully. Sleep doesn't enhance motivation. Sleep makes motivation meaningful by providing the biological substrate it requires. More importantly, sleep controls quality of life. Person A's relationships suffered. Their health deteriorated. Their emotional well-being collapsed. Not because they were bad or weak, because they denied their biology. Person B's life remained stable. Good relationships, solid health, emotional contentment. Not because they were virtuous, because they respected their biology. We perform not just at work, but in all of life. Parenting, friendship, partnership, self-care. Every role requires a functioning brain. The choice is available to you now. You can follow Person A's path, believing motivation conquers all, sacrificing sleep for achievement, eventually facing biological collapse. Or you can follow Person B's path, understanding that motivation needs capacity, protecting sleep as foundational, sustaining performance indefinitely. Neither path is easy. Person A's path is hard because it fights biology. Person B's path is hard because it fights culture. But one leads to burnout. The other leads to sustainability. Ancient wisdom knew what science now confirms. Rest is sacred. Sabbath, siesta, quiet tea ceremonies. These weren't indulgences, but recognitions of human limits. We are biological beings in a technological world. Honor the biology, use the technology, balance them, and you thrive sustainably. Modern culture forgot this wisdom. We believe technology could eliminate human constraints. It can't. Person A represents modernity's era. Person B represents ancient wisdom validated by modern science. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, you're participating in the most important performance-enhancing behavior available. Your brain will clear metabolic waste through the glymphatic system, consolidate memories, regulate emotions, restore energy, synthesize neurotransmitters, repair cellular damage, all without conscious effort. This is why you sleep. Not because you're weak, because you're biological. Person B understood this. Person A learned it. Now you know it too. Honor your sleep. Protect it. Prioritize it. The ultimate truth is simple. You are not a machine. You are a human being with a biological brain requiring maintenance. That maintenance is called sleep. Motivation is wonderful. Effort is admirable. Discipline is valuable. But all three depend on a brain that works properly. Sleep is not separate from performance. Sleep is the foundation of performance. Person A forgot this and paid dearly. Person B remembered this and thrived quietly. The choice is yours every night. Rest well. Perform well. Live well. And so, our quiet journey through performance and sleep comes to a gentle close. We've traveled from two people starting the same path, watching as their choices about rest shaped everything that followed. Discovering along the way that motivation without sleep is like light without a mirror. Bright, perhaps, but unable to create reflection. From ambitious mornings to exhausted breakdowns, from consistent capacity to sustained success, we've glimpsed how performance is both biological and psychological. Sleep reminds us that we are animals, not machines. Much of the restoration happens in silence, beneath consciousness, in darkness, where the brain repairs what daylight damaged. Sleep reveals patience, resilience, and the wisdom of accepting limitations. Without sleep, motivation has nowhere to land. By pausing to rest, we glimpse the extraordinary capacity within the ordinary need for unconsciousness. In these final minutes, take the deepest breath you can. As deep as possible, think about consciousness itself. Yours, mine, everyone listening. All awareness, everywhere. Perhaps all connected in ways we don't yet understand. You are not alone in the universe of minds. Let your entire being dissolve into the ocean of consciousness, into dreamless rest, into the space before thought. Prepare for deep sleep. No boundaries left, only peace. If this thoughtful exploration of sleep and performance helped you understand why rest matters, perhaps a gentle like and subscribe could help another tired soul discover this peaceful space too. It might be exactly what another restless mind is searching for tonight. One quiet tap, one sleepy soul at a time. But there's no need to do anything now. Nothing at all. You've traveled far tonight, farther than most journeys take you. You can allow these thoughts about performance and motivation to fade now, like morning mist dissolving in gentle sunlight, leaving only the quiet calm behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if Earth's gravity is finally allowed to hold you completely. If sleep comes, Let it carry you like a river flowing inevitably toward the sea, smoothly, naturally, into a realm where effort and achievement no longer matter. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Tomorrow, performance will still be there. Motivation will still exist. Goals will still wait. But tonight belongs to restoration. Rest well, sleepy soul, and remember, your brain performs because you let it rest. Dream deeper with bedtime science. Good night.